I'll introduce myself. So I'm Jodie from Training 2000. So I'm one of the account managers. So I am really the employer's port of call for kind of any new apprenticeships that they want to take, any kind of problems that they're having with with any current apprentices. So kind of your first port of call um, at Training 2000, really. And I'll let Tony introduce himself.
I won't go on too long. I'm Tony Douglas. I'm a dispensing optician and I'm a tutor at Training 2000, optical tutor.
Fab, thank you. So, what I'm just going to do to start with is just give you a little brief overview of Training 2000 because not everybody is familiar with us, and then I'll let Tony go into a bit more detail about the course content and how an apprentice can, aid your business. So let's begin. So we've been established for over 50 years. I mean, we predominantly offer apprenticeships, but we do offer commercial training as well. So we do specialise in apprenticeships. It's not just optical we do. So just to give you kind of like an idea of the scale of what we're operating at, we've got many provisions. We've got automotive engineering, business admin, accountancy. So it's a really big business that we've got here. But optical is one that's going really, really successful and it is growing. We've got over 150 employees. We've won various awards, most recently World Skills winners in engineering and automotive. And the team is amazing. So all our tutors, our skills coaches, they're all from industry, and the passion they've got for the subject, it's really incredible to see. So I'm sure you'll see that from Tony a bit later on. And we are part of the University of Central Lancashire. So for kind of seamless progression routes, there is that option there. So just to give you an idea, just in case, people aren't quite aware of how apprenticeships work, what they are. So an apprenticeship, it is a paid job where the employee learns and gains valuable experience. So they still get annual leave as per a normal employee. They've got hands-on experience because they're in the role, they're doing the job, but they've also got the 20% what's classed as off the job training. So that can be anything that really helps their development that's not typical of their daily job role. So it could be a lesson with Tony, for example, a weekly lesson with Tony. It could be shadowing someone. So the idea is obviously that they've got the actual job and then they've got development as well to enhance their skill set. And the benefits for a business, I think at the minute everyone can understand the difficulties with recruiting at the minute. So upskilling current staff that you've got kind of maybe on reception or admin, it's so much more cost effective than having to recruit more staff. For staff that you do have, the advantage to them is the retention. It obviously empowers them, it gives them more qualifications, more skills for kind of their CV as well. So you can hopefully keep your staff happy and with the business for a long time. And training apprentices, it does produce workers with skills that are not necessarily available on the external job market. So it allows you to kind of mould them to a bit to your business needs. So just to go into the apprenticeship a little bit. So it's optical assistant level 2. So it's 12 months in duration. It's taught 1 day per week. So Tony's the tutor and it's online. So they don't have to come to Blackburn to study. And you get one-to-one support from your tutor as well. Now, cost commitments, it's going to be different for everyone, depending on the size of the company. If you're a levy payer, so that usually means you've got over 50 employees, you pay the apprenticeship levy, your annual bill wage is over 3 mil. So then your whole 5,000 would be drawn from the levy pot. If you employ under 50 people, if you take on a 16 to 18-year-old, you won't have to pay anything. Anyone over 18, you'll just have to pay a 5% contribution, which is £250. And the requirements are that they've just got to have the maths and English GCSEs. That's government funding rules. It's not us saying that they have to have the GCSEs. It's just a requirement now for all apprenticeships. So then I think, Tony, you can
take control.
I can
take control. I can move my slides. Right. Can everybody still see the slides?
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. I'll put it into super. There we go. So the program, what's on it? GLC, number 1 competence, communication skills, aid customers in a professional and friendly manner. So we very much look at communication, how we talk to people, how we talk to different types of people. Obviously going to talk to a young child differently than you would an elderly, hard of hearing individual. So looking at communication, how you can help yourself, how you can sort of evolve, develop that, types of questions you use, so you don't get yes, no answers. A lot of things on communication. Understanding an optical prescription, really important. You're working in opticians, you need to know what all these minuses and pluses and numbers mean, how they affect the eye, what type of lenses people need, learn all about the different types of lenses. I'll go on to that in a moment. Helping customers select frames. So we're looking at little bits of tips and tricks that you should be aware of when you're dispensing somebody, just to make sure that you get a frame that is good for them optically, but also suits them. So we do look at things like the shape, what shapes suit people, not just the optics. So we are looking at the optics, refractive indices of lenses, coatings. What look at what when people have learned the basics with lenses, we do a series of case studies. Right, we have got this case study, this prescription. This is the person's hobbies. What would you dispense? So it's sort of providing examples for people to what you would do in the real world or doing the job. Be able to explain the features and benefits of a particular frame. Obviously, optics is full of jargon. When we're talking to customers, patients, we want to be talking in terms that they can understand. So that's explained all the way through about not to use jargon and the way to word things. Measuring frames and ensure they're a suitable size for a customer and can accommodate their lenses. So do a lot round that and making sure frame's suitable. Making adjustments to customer spectacle frames using the correct tools. So we do a whole session looking at what tools are there. Are you using the tools that you've got the right way? Are they all correct? Are you doing the adjustment right? We discuss which tools for use for which adjustment. Basic frame repairs, that's going to be big part of optical advisor's job. So somebody sat on the frame, screws come out to the side, etc., etc. Talk about all the different frame repairs. We watch videos and look at presentations on that. Have a good knowledge of ophthalmic lenses, tints, coatings to be able to meet. So that's what I was saying before, really. So we're going to look at a case study. We'll look at case studies, certainly when you've got the basics of the optical knowledge, and think, right, what would best satisfy their optical needs in terms of the lens, the tints, the coatings for this individual. Obviously, a big part of our business is NHS paperwork. I know it's all gone online now, but you still need to understand about who's entitled to paperwork, filling it in correctly, the laws around GDPR, and making sure that those laws are not broken. It can lead to a hefty fine. Making follow-up appointments for our customers. So you've spoken to a customer, identified their optical needs, ordered the spectacles, and you've got the confidence to actually then get a follow-up appointment to maybe do a refit, or checking on somebody's varifocals are okay. Or basically keeping in contact with customers. Using a photometer, it doesn't have to be a manual photometer. My caveat or warning there, if they want to do the DO course afterwards, they want to become a dispensing optician afterwards, you do on the DO course still. So you have to learn a manual photometer there, but for the apprenticeship, an automatic projection photometer is fine. So, but they will, one of the things they're tested on is, can they do single vision? And if they do prove to the assessor that it can do single vision, it can be a pass. But to get distinction, they need to be able to photometer bifocals and PPLs as well. So just bear that in mind. Obviously, we want to make sure everybody knows what products that the stock in their practices, and there's assignments and assessments based around that. Talking about, for example, for contact lens suitability, what features and benefits contact lenses have, just gives the learners a bit more confidence to talk to patients about things when they know more about them in the background. Carrying out pre-screening. Normally, a lot of the new apprentices who first start, that is their first role, are quite often doing pre-screening. So why we will learn about why we do pre-screening. Very early on, we say, obviously, do not interpret any results yourselves. That has to be done by the optom. It's part of the jigsaw of the eye test, and it will discuss the results of your field test, whatever, in the test room. So you're learning how the machines work, what they're looking for, and the main ocular conditions that you're trying to identify there in that part of the course. Again, it sort of makes learners home in on their practice, looking at what offers, what products there are to customers, and start to think about second pairs. Quite often, one pair of specs will not tick every box. You'll need a second pair, and it's getting learners to think about that and how to use the offers to best effect with that. Ophthalmic problem solving and avoiding remakes, that's a really useful one for the business because one thing we use there is like a flow chart and it's a yes no answers. Have you checked this? Have you done that? And that straight away, early doors for somebody with minimum optical experience, gives somebody confidence because they know I've checked that, I've done that, I've remembered to do that. And it gives you a yes no answer and it'll send you on to the next stage or something else to check. Avoiding remakes is more towards the end of the course. It's thinking about things before they happen. Little bits of things you can do when you're dispensing, big blank for a plus or unsuitable frame, whatever. Thinking about potential things that can happen before you put the job through, i.e., costing money. There isn't an exam, so there isn't a formal exam as such. There's something called an endpoint assessment. It's in 3 parts. So at the end of 12 months, we've gone through all the coursework. We have a meeting. It's usually between one of the tutors, like myself, the supervisor in practice is usually a GOC registrant, and the learner themselves. And it is basically a meeting to find out, are you ready for this exam? Before this, we've already looked through mock exams, practice papers, etc., etc. That gateway meeting, sort of everybody's happy there, then it's this part, this endpoint assessment. What happens is we speak to the assessors, get some dates penned in that we could potentially do and agree on a date between the assessors and the practice. They will then send a multifocal case study. So that's to be done before this visitor comes to the practice. A multifocal case study, most people do PPLs, but it can be bifocals, occupationals. They'll do this case study before the visit. Now, beforehand in classes, we'd have gone through examples. We'd have talked about what needs to be included in that. There's going to be no surprises for the learner, shall we say, there. They're not going to be out the depth, not knowing what to do. They're going to know exactly what to do. They've just got to make it their own and be based on a patient they've dispensed. A bit like you do in the portfolio for Abdo, it's 51 case studies now, isn't it? So part 2, an observation. So this is when the assessor has come to your practice. They'll observe you carrying out pre-screening, a collection or a dispense, and that's from a distance. So they're not involved, the assessor, they're stood back and they'll hear what they'll hear. Now, what I mean by that is some of the things that if they've not heard a learner address something, I call the professional discussion a mop-up session, because anything they've not heard or didn't come up in that conversation, the assessor will then talk about that in the one-to-one. What's good about that, or takes the pressure off a learner, they can make little bits of notes for themselves. So they can have a little note. Remember, need vertex distance for prescriptions plus and minus 5. Little bits of notes that'll just trigger them to know what to talk about. There, they can't take books in and lots of things, but little bits of bullet points just to give them a bit of a comfort blanket. And we find it just feels that that gives somebody a little bit more confidence there, and that's what that's about. Then basic notes into the session there. So when you have actually completed the course, I talk to quite regularly. I know all the people who run the dispensing opticians course. I'm not saying everybody will necessarily want to do a dispensing optician course, but all the DO courses, if the learners have got English and maths at level 4, which is in all languages a C, and they've done this course, they'll be able to go on to the DO courses. So not just UCLANs. So UCLAN do a course as well, but all Bradford City, Abdo, whatever, with this qualification, they'll be able to go on to the DO course. So that's one option. Obviously, when you're a DO, you can do an extra year to become a CLO to do that. You might want to become a low vision specialist. It might be your forte. Aging population, more and more low vision aids needed in practice. Optometry. With the UCLAN link, because we're part of UCLAN, if a learner finishes the apprenticeship, they can go to UCLAN. It's a rather unique course. It's quite. I won't lie. It's a fast track, but it's a difficult course because it's quite compact. They go to UCLAN for 2 years. It's not a normal academic year, September to May. They have to work the summer as well, so they don't get any holiday in the summer. But this includes the pre-reg year, but they can become a DO in 2 years by going from the apprenticeship straight to UCLAN. Obviously, it's normally 3, whichever way you do it. It might be 2 years full time at Bradford or whatever, and then a year's pre-reg. It's 2 years, no summer off, but you're a DO in 2 years. Those people who have done that course are the front of the queue of the very popular optometry course at UCLAN. Now, why very popular? It's sort of taking over Bradford in terms of how popular it is and easier to become an optometrist. You can be working, but you're going to UCLAN 1 week a month going to UCLan, and again, that's 2 more years, and you're an optometrist. So in total, anybody starting now on the apprenticeship, they can be an optom if all goes according to plan. I know everybody doesn't pass exams first time, but in 5 years. So that's quite remarkable that you can do that. The people who've done the DO course at UCLan are front of the queue for that optometry course, which always get us oversubscribed, because obviously there's current DOs out there thinking, I want to become an optometrist, and they can do it in 2 years. You can still be working and still go there. So that's I think I've bigged up the UCLan link there and how good it is there quite enough, haven't I? So clinical representative, what else can you be? So somebody might show a real flair for like frames and things. He might be the person that then starts ordering all the frame ranges. And I've already got learners that are working out cost of sales and things with their which frames to order and what to price them at and things. Might want to be an in-practice learner, a trainer. I talk about this all the time. Yeah, yesterday we were looking at frame shapes and colorings and things, and I said, look, use these slides. You use these slides, and you can they'd be really useful in your own in practice training sessions. You use these. It's just getting to the confidence, but I can feel throughout the year they are getting more and more confident there. Traditionally, if you've become more qualified in an opticians, you end up potentially doing management. Don't have to. Some do, some don't. But it's just been traditionally when I've been in optics. Somebody might show a real flair for wanting to, be a partner or in a franchise or buy into your business, open a second practice, whatever. And that's achievable as well. And I'd say actually in the optics industry, that's probably more common than most other industries where you start as little OA to becoming a director or an owner of your own business. That still happens quite a lot in optics. And that's so obviously, and those of you from optics will know that. So it just sort of opens the door for that. Now, I think I'm handing over to Jodie again now, aren't I? Yeah.
Would help if I turned it off mute. Yeah, I
Turned it
think
off.
so.
Yeah. Lip reading.
So basically it's just one last slide really, just to tell you kind of like the next steps. If you're interested, number one, in enrolling any of your current staff that you kind of want to upskill. And number two, obviously, a new recruit as well if you're looking at recruiting. So let's have a look. So it's quite easy if you've got staff that you already kind of want to upskill and enroll on an apprenticeship. We'd just send you a link. They apply via the link, so that goes direct to the recruitment team. So it just takes the details of the learner who's applying, and it takes the maths and English as well. And then the recruitment team would be in touch to arrange a telephone interview with that person, and they just take a copy, so just a picture on the mobile phone is fine, of the photographic ID and the maths and English GCSE certificates or equivalent amount of functional skills, key skills. They'll take down their national insurance number, and anyone now who starts on an apprenticeship has to do a BKSB, which is basically it's a maths and an English assessment. So regardless, even if you've got the grades to come on board, you just do these two assessments, and it just means that we can kind of identify if anyone would need any additional support throughout the apprenticeship. And of course, then after it's the signing of paperwork. So the employer has to sign, we as the training provider has to sign, and the learner has to sign. So it's just outlining kind of the commitments to the apprenticeship, and that's all in writing then, so everyone's aware of that. If you're looking to recruit someone, obviously recruitment, it is a little bit difficult at the minute. It's completely an applicant's market. And it is testing sometimes. I think every business across every provision is finding that at the minute. But we do have a recruitment team here. It's a small recruitment team, but they are brilliant. So the ways to advertise a new vacancy for you can advertise on the government website for apprenticeships. So that's probably where most of our applicants come from. So for anyone searching for an apprenticeship, they can type in what they're searching for in the location, and it'll bring up everything on the government website. We've got our website as well, and we also have our social medias where we also promote posts as well. And we always encourage you guys to use your channels, so Indeed, your social medias as well. And then you can always fire us any CVs to do that kind of initial legwork and iron out if someone's suitable. They've got to be living in the UK, they've got to have the GCSEs, etc. So we can do that initial legwork for you, and then say to you, actually, we've interviewed these, they seem really good, would you like to interview them face to face yourselves. So that's kind of the step for both of them. So I think we've obviously tried to cram quite a lot in. I'm so sorry to everyone who's had problems getting on today, but does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I'll ask one if that's all right. So if
Absolutely.
I've got a new member of staff starting with no experience of optics at all, yeah. So is that classed then as a current staff member if they're new to us, but new to optics as well?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter whether they're current or new. The fact is you want to put them onto an apprenticeship. So how long have they been with you?
About a month.
About a month, yeah. We have loads of people, to be honest with you, loads of people before they want to commit to putting someone in an apprenticeship, they will get them in company for a month or two first, just to
Yeah.
check that they're right for the business. So it
Yeah.
doesn't make any difference. So all we'd do to you is send you the link. They'd
Yeah.
they'd fill in the link. We'd get your business details, just like company house number, contact details
Yeah.
for whoever needs to be involved, and then yeah, we just start to enrol them. It doesn't make any difference.
Yeah. And when does it start? So is there a starting date for this, or is it like any time for the course?
Yes, so there are various start dates. So currently you can join, you'd have to, let me just get this right. I think the next start date is June the 13th, I want to say.
Yeah.
So everyone who starts an apprenticeship comes on to what we call a fixed start. So it's kind of like an induction. So it's done remotely again, and it's an introduction to training 2000. They've got to touch on safeguarding. For us to be compliant with Ofsted, and we've also got to give them all the logins for the one file. So one file is where they upload all the work. It's like an e-portfolio. So they get all that on day one of the apprenticeship, and then the lessons would commence weekly with Tony.
Okay, so is there any other start dates after that?
There's one in
Yes.
September as well, isn't there? Yeah, there's another September time.
Yeah, late August or September time. Yeah.
That's a popular one because it's a traditional academic year, isn't it? That's why.
Well, that might be suitable because just with holidays and stuff. I think if June, the person in question will be away for a few weeks over the summer. So, if we start September, that wouldn't be too bad. So the other question is, from a financial point of view, the cost. You said about if they're over 18, it's £250. I mean, we don't have we don't have over 50 employees. We have about 15. So would we qualify for the course being £250? Is that?
Yeah. So basically, how it works. So if you're a small to medium business like that, then the government fund 95% of the cost. So we're still paid 5,000 for the course, but the government are paying 95% of it, and you're just paying that 250, which is the 5% contribution.
So all we do is pay you the 250, and then you sort all the rest. We don't have to get involved in the rest of the other.
Exactly. So what happens is you'll get sent a payment schedule with all the paperwork. So before they start, you get all the paperwork sent, and the payment schedule will have on there any commitments to you as an employee and when the money will be requested. But yeah, that's pretty much. If you take on any new staff as well that are 16 to 18, there is £1,000 incentive from the government. So there'll be details of when that will be paid to you from the government on the payment schedule.
Okay. Right. Okay. Cool. So effectively I could start this person in September. You send us all the link details, and then you send us a payment schedule. It'll be 250 quid for this person because they're over 18, and we've ticked the box of having under 50 employees. Is that it? Basically.
Pretty much it. Yeah, it's very when you don't have to recruit. Obviously, it's a lot more straightforward because you've got that person in mind. It's obviously just a bit of a longer process when we've got to find someone. But yeah, it really is that straightforward.
Okay. And the online training day per week, is that a whole day or is it like an evening? Is it
a normal day would pan out like this? So normally unless it's particularly long videos, whatever, usually between 9 and past. Can you carry out this pre-research? It'll be some topics to get a book out, Google, go online, do some research. It might be to watch a video or something about the topic, just so it's not completely new to them when we start. Then a normal day would be 9:30 start on Teams. And it works a lot better than it has this morning for whatever, but it works fine. That allows me to do breakout rooms, PowerPoints, Nearpods, etc. So that's all the learning. So doing that probably till till about lunchtime, I'd say that. So that is like the contact time. While we're doing that, obviously, I want to test that sunk in, what we've done that day. So what Jodie was talking about before, one file on the day, and they get timed like a date where you must do this within 2 weeks. When they first start, give a basic transposition, just to introduce transposition, so know how to do it, and then I can mark it and things like that. And they get the afternoon to do any set work. It starts slowly. There are things, because it's an online course, where there's some logs to do. So for symmetry, so to say, right, whoever your supervisor is has got to sign to say you've done 10 single vision for symmetry, etc. So you'll have some logs where you have to sort of help with that as a supervisor, but it's not putting lots and lots of pressure on whoever the supervisor is. I know some courses really do. And also, if there's ever any issues within your practice, I don't think we're doing MARs enough. I don't know that. I've got sessions in the middle of the course. I'd just bring them forward or have it as a conversation because there's an issue in your business. I like it when a learner comes to me and says, I had this prescription, -2, -3 at 180. I'm not sure. Do they need thinner lenses? And then it opens a discussion. It's all frame, centration, etc., etc. Yeah.
Okay. And probably my final question on that is, do you know what day roughly it would be?
It's in September, probably a Wednesday.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, Wednesday, usually Tuesday or Wednesday, but I think Wednesday is September. Pretty sure that is the case. Yeah.
Okay.
And just with any, sorry, I should have probably explained this at the beginning, but with any apprenticeship, across any provision, any apprenticeship now, you have to, so whatever you contract them to hour-wise, say if it's 40 hours, 20% of them hours has to be what's classed as off-the-job hours. I prefer to refer them to development hours, to be honest with you. I prefer that name for them. So when they're with Tony, for example, that contributes to that. But say if Tony's only done a morning session, you'll have to give them half a day somewhere else just to do, either they can do some of the coursework, or you can, have them shadowing, have them doing something that's out, as long as it's not in their typical job role, because they'll upload all the hours onto the one file, you see. And that's kind of like it's hitting the funding criteria. Basically, it's like the government set that 20% rule.
Okay.
Rachel, sorry, and Vicky, sorry, I've missed your questions. I've got the chat open now. I think because I'm still sharing, I can't see it so much. So I'll go through your questions. So Rachel, if you're a larger business, what were the financial implications? Okay, so if you're a larger business, it depends if you pay into the apprenticeship levy. If you pay into the apprenticeship levy, which is essentially, it's kind of like a tax that you pay every month as a big business, and it goes into a big pot. And in this pot, you've got this money that can only be used on apprenticeships. So in that case, the full cost for the apprenticeship is just drawn from the levy pot. It's as simple as that, really. But you just need to find out if you're a levy payer or not. I hope that's answered that. And Vicky, are there any implications if we place a member of staff on the apprenticeship and they leave the practice during the course of the programme? No, so there's commitment statements to sign on all parties, but it doesn't mean that you have to stay on that apprenticeship till the very end. If you pay as the employer, if you're paying £250 and they leave halfway through, you'll be reimbursed for the training that's not used, basically. On a credit note, and the funding will just be stopped. So everyone who has an apprentice has to have a digital account that's linked to the government. So we just stop the funding on that and stop the apprenticeship. So it's absolutely fine. Does that answer everything for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Okay, well, last thing is what, so is it, if I wanted to go ahead with somebody in September, is it just a case of just emailing yourself to say, can I enroll someone, or?
I'll send out contact details after this, and just kind of like a follow-up email with the details on, so you've got them to hand as well, so if you need to refer back to. But yeah, so the only thing to note is that obviously there's various paperwork, and there's the assessments that they need to do. There's things that need to be done behind the scenes before they come on board. So we see if we can get all of that done about 4 weeks before they start, that would be amazing. That's the ideal time. So looking at September, we need to, if we can start the ball rolling at the beginning of August, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, the earlier the better, you know, the more organised we can all get, you know, because if you've not had apprentices before, you do need a digital account with the government. It's really straightforward. You just register your PAYE details and it all links up. And then you just give us permissions as a training provider to add people onto that on your behalf. But we can't do anything. We just add them on and you have to approve everything. So it's just kind of us helping with the admin bits on there.
What, just going back to the holiday thing, what if they are away, say for example the course starts in September and they're away for a week in November? If they miss a week, what's the kind of protocol with that?
What I do with that is every session I ask everybody, like Jodie did before, can we record this? So I'll record it. So I'll send that, and also on the and they'll get a copy of the slides, and on the proviso that as well that look, go through it, maybe involve your supervisor. If anything doesn't make sense, come back to me. Come back. So they've got the material. They've still got the learning materials, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Fabulous. Is that everything?
Yes. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for joining. I'm so sorry about the technical difficulties we had. I'll send the slides out anyway, so you've got things to refer to, and I can attach the PDF for the optical course. But yeah, you'll have my contact details then, so just come back to me with any questions.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
All right. See you. Have a good day.
See ya.